I've talked extensively on this channel about how the ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z is not at all faithful to the original Japanese. And I've also talked about how the Funimation redub has a ton of changes as well. Neither of these versions is accurate to what Toriyama wrote. However, one version of Dragon Ball Z that I have yet to talk about is the original Funimation dub. So on this edition of my Dragon Ball dub comparison series, I'm going to take a look at one standout moment from the original Funimation dub. And of course, we're also going to be taking a look at the Funimation redub, the Dragon Ball Z Kai dub, and the Spanish Latin American dub, and rating each version in order to determine who handled this scene best. Let's get into it. The scene we're going to be taking a look at today happens in episode 76 of the Dragon Ball Z anime. This is the scene where Vegeta realizes that Gohan and Krillin have taken the Dragon Balls and they're in the process of stealing his wish for immortality. As always, we're going to begin by taking a look at the original Japanese. This is my translation of what Vegeta says. Note, this is a pretty literal translation because this is going to serve as our point of reference when we're looking at what the dubs did with this scene. I screwed it all up! The Dragon Balls are gone! Shit! And Kakarot's son is gone too! Damn them, those shitty little brats! What's that? A monster? Is that monster the dragon those brats had mentioned? Damn it! Those little shits totally played me! They'll pay for this! Thank you, I know, my Vegeta is absolutely amazing! No, it's awful, but hey, hopefully it at least entertained you. Again, I really want to emphasize here that this is a pretty literal translation. If I were to actually translate this for a dub, I'd probably end up rearranging a few things and getting much more creative. Because another thing that's really important to keep in mind is that oftentimes with insults, just like with comedy, you really have to change things quite a bit. Here's an example to show you what I mean. In this scene, Vegeta uses the suffix domo, specifically in the phrase kuso gaki domo me. Kuso literally means the S word or crap. Gaki is often translated as brat or punk or kid. Domo is a suffix that makes kuso gaki, these crappy brats, I guess you could say, it makes it plural. However, it's also derogatory. So when you use it like this, it's actually adding to the insulting nature of what Vegeta is saying. And then on top of that, at the very end of all this, he says me. Adding me at the end of this is like saying, you damn something something. So let's focus on the domo. There's no plural marker in the English language that can also be used in a derogatory way. So you see what I mean? Sometimes you do need a creative translation in order to really convey the impact of what is in the source language. Aside from that though, what Vegeta says here is pretty straightforward. We don't really need an in-depth breakdown here, so we can get to the dubs. Now, normally I would begin with the oldest dub first, which in this case is the original Funimation dub. However, this time around, we're going to save that one for the end and begin with the Funimation redub.
How could I be so foolish? Those little punks are going to pay for this! Darn it, where are they? Where are they? Oh, come on! They have to be around here somewhere! Look at that thing! They summoned him! The Earthlings have tried to summon the Dragon of Legend without me! Alright, I'm not going to let this shake my composure! Damn it!
Obviously, this version is pretty different from my version. However, even though, yeah, it's pretty different from my version, that doesn't mean that it's totally inaccurate. Because yeah, even though the exact words may be different, the word order may be different, for the most part, Vegeta is largely saying the same kinds of things that is in the original text. That being said, I do want to point out two specific things that I didn't really like about this version. First up, we have something that Vegeta says early on in the scene. Towards the beginning, Vegeta says, "Darn it!" This makes Vegeta sound like a dad trying not to swear in front of his kids. This is not something Vegeta would say. Vegeta would just come outright and say, "Damn it." And what makes this even weirder is that later on in this scene, Vegeta does say "damn it." So why did they have him say "darn it" at the beginning of the scene? The only thing I can think of is that this was some kind of censorship thing. Like maybe they had some kind of limit on the amount of times a character can say "damn" within an episode.
Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it!
Wow, Piccolo's pulling a your dad.
The second thing I want to point out is kind of connected to the first thing I pointed out. So at the end of the scene, they have Vegeta say, "I'm not gonna let this shake my composure!" And then he says, "Damn it!" So maybe this is the in-universe explanation for why Vegeta first says, "Darn it," and then he says, "Damn it," because he lost his composure. However, this wasn't in the original, and this last line about losing his composure and then screaming, "Damn it," ultimately detracts from this scene. In the original, what Vegeta says at the very end is, "Yuru-san!" Literally, this means something like, "I won't allow it," or "I won't forgive this." But arguably, a more accurate translation in this context is something like, "I won't allow them to get away with this." Or even, "They're gonna pay for this." In other words, in the original Japanese, this moment ends with Vegeta saying something threatening. This is an ominous moment. We know that shortly after this, Vegeta's gonna show up and confront Krillin and Gohan, and well, something's gonna go down. However, in the Funimation redub, we basically get something out of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Vegeta saying, "I'm not gonna lose my temper. I'm not gonna lose my temper. I'm not gonna lose my temper. I lost my temper." Like, it's pretty ridiculous.
But how? I thought you had to have a pure heart to become a Super Saiyan, like my dad.
Oh, trust me, there's more than one way to realize the legend. I wanna be a Super Saiyan! I wanna!
So what would I rate this version? Well, basically, Vegeta says the things that he has to say, so that's good. But this isn't the Vegeta that Toriyama wrote. So I'm gonna have to give this version a 6.5 out of 10. Next up, let's see what Dragon Ball Z Kai did with this scene.
I knew it! Someone's made off with the Dragon Balls! Who else but Kakarot's brat? Ugh, damn it! How could I have been such a brainless idiot? When I get my hands on those scheming runts? What the hell is that? No, it can't be. If that's the Shenron thing they've all been babbling on about, then... Damn it! I will not be cheated out of immortality!
Obviously, this version is also pretty different from my translation, but I think that the translators did a great job at capturing the general vibe of Vegeta in this scene. There's multiple examples I can give you to prove this point. For example, remember, in the original Japanese, Vegeta calls Krillin and Gohan Kuso Gaki. Kuso literally means the S word or crap, and again, Gaki is often translated as brat. However, in this case, we see that they translated Gaki as runt. I think this is a great choice. It definitely captures the vibe of the original Japanese, even though normally you probably wouldn't translate Gaki as runt. However, Vegeta at no point in the original Japanese calls Krillin and Gohan quote-unquote scheming, but he does say "Ore o dashi nukiyagatta." This means something like, "They played me for a fool, they outwitted me, they got the jump on me." And well, when you think about it from Vegeta's perspective, if they got the jump on him, if they were planning to steal the Dragon Balls, well, that is very scheming, isn't it? So even though Vegeta doesn't literally say scheming in the original Japanese, this works great. And on top of everything, it sounds natural, it captures the original vibe. This is a really good translation. Here's another thing I like about this version. They had Vegeta say, "What the hell is that?" Now, in the original Japanese, Vegeta just says, "Nanda, what's that?" But given the fact that in the original Japanese, Vegeta isn't speaking politely. He's angry, he's throwing around insults, he's using words that, well, we don't normally use in polite society. To me, it makes total sense that Vegeta would use "the hell" if he were to be speaking in English. And here's one last thing I want to praise. At the end of this scene, we hear Vegeta say that he's not going to let them rob him of his immortality. Vegeta absolutely does not say the word immortality in the original Japanese. At the end of the original version, Vegeta says, "Yuru-san!" Again, in this context, this means something like, "I won't allow this, I won't forgive this." Well, think about this. What is it that Vegeta is not going to allow? Well, what Vegeta is referring to is robbing him of his wish. What is Vegeta's wish? Immortality. So you see, even though Vegeta is not actually saying immortality, it's still kind of being implied. Yes, it's ambiguous, But this totally works because often in Japanese, people leave out subjects, they kind of imply things, and you really have to think about like, well, what is it that Vegeta is actually saying? And this translation about not letting them rob him of his wish for immortality, I think that's a totally valid translation, and it captures the original nuance, that vibe that Vegeta is giving off with that last line in the original Japanese. So right about now, the Dragon Ball Z Kai dub haters are probably leaving comments down below complaining about how I'm glazing the Dragon Ball Z Kai dub. Well, it's good. Sorry, they did a really good job here. But do I have any complaints? Not really, but I do have one small one. And it's that Vegeta actually says Shenron in this version. It's not a big deal, but I just don't think Vegeta would use Shenron in this context. He doesn't do it in the original Japanese. I don't think there was a need to have him say Shenron in this version. So what would I rate this version? Well, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. And next up, we have the Spanish Latin American dub.
¡Oh! ¡No están las esferas del dragón, demonios! ¡Mira que tampoco está! ¡Maldición! ¡Fueron esos enanos! ¡Ah! ¿Qué? ¿Qué es ese monstruo? Ese monstruo debe ser el dragón de las esferas que tanto decía de esos enanos. ¡Diablos! ¡Esos chiquillos se quisieron pasar de listos! ¡No!
As usual, the Spanish Latin American dub of Dragon Ball Z is really faithful to the original. In fact, sometimes it's so faithful that it comes off sounding just a little bit stiff. But in this case, I think it's totally fine. They basically followed the exact word order. They translated this line for line. They got a little bit creative with some of the insults because, again, you have to with the insults and especially how they work in Japanese sometimes. But there's two specific things that I want to point out. First of all, this is a tiny thing, but I absolutely love the way he says, Diablos! It's so good.
¡Diablos!
Literally, Diablos means devils, but basically what Vegeta is saying here is, damn it! And the other thing I want to point out is more significant. So at the end of this version, Vegeta just says, no! Remember, I criticized the Funimation redub for ending this sequence with Vegeta saying, no! So I should lob the same criticism at this version, right? No, because the Funimation redub ends this sequence by turning Vegeta into an absolute joke with that whole, I'm gonna lose my composure bit. In this version, yes, this sequence ends with Vegeta saying, no, but that isn't making a mockery of Vegeta. That isn't painting Vegeta in a different light. It's just leaving out a little bit of the information and the nuance that is in Yurusan. So yeah, you could say it's a little bit of a shame, but overall it's not such a big deal, especially when you compare this to what the Funimation redub did. As for why this version chose to go with no, well, it really just seems to come down to the timing and the lip flaps. By the time they got to this part of the sequence, they just didn't have enough time left to have Vegeta say anything other than no. So what would I rate this version? Well, just like the Kai dub, I think this one did a great job. So I'm also going to give this version a 9.5 out of 10. And now, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the main event of the night, the original Funimation dub.
I can't believe this! How could I be so foolish? Those little punks are gonna pay for this! Alright, shoot! Where are they? Little devils! How could I? I must be getting old or some... Oh, holy cosmos, look at that thing! So, that's the dragon of the legend. My gosh, that's one whopper of a lizard! Alright! I'm not going to let this shake my composure!
And now you see why I saved this version for the end. It's so good. I love this version, but this version of Vegeta is an absolute clown. Let's begin with the voice acting. Normally I don't focus on the voice acting, but wow, this voice acting here reminds me almost of something you might hear in Speed Racer, like that very stilted, over the top, old-fashioned dubbing. And yes, I know that the voice of this Vegeta was modeled after the one in the Ocean dub, and that's also why we get all these over-the-top Ocean dub-like lines. But I'm not talking about the history here, I'm talking about whether this is a good adaptation or not. Like I was saying though, this is extremely entertaining. Holy cosmos, I love that. A whopper of a lizard, hilarious. And I'm getting too old for this. He's basically about to finish saying that, but he cuts it off, right? That's hilarious. I especially like that Vegeta calls Krillin and Gohan little devils.
Little devils!
But none of this is representative of who Vegeta is as a character in the source material. And to make things even worse, the "I'm getting too old for this" line, that is yet another example of a line being inserted into the dub that ends up conflicting with something in the source material. Because, as you probably know, Saiyans don't age like humans. They stay young for a very long time. So this line makes no sense. And yes, that last line where Vegeta says that he's not going to lose his composure, it started here. And for whatever reason, the Funimation redub decided that line is so good that we have to keep it. So what would I rate this version? Well, in terms of whether this is an accurate adaptation of what was in the source material and whether this is an accurate representation of the real Vegeta, no, not at all. This is absolutely horrible. At the very least, though, it does hit some of the plot points. Like, Vegeta is still saying that the Dragon Balls are missing and you're getting that basic information. So it's not like it's something completely different, but this is a totally different character. This is not the Vegeta that Toriyama wrote. So I'm going to give this version a 2.5 out of 10. However, in terms of entertainment value and enjoyability, holy cosmos, this is a masterpiece and it deserves a 10 out of 10. That's a whopper of a score. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and let me know down below which version was your favorite. I want to hear from you guys. Leave me some comments, show me some support. And by the way, I think this might be the last video of 2025. Just in case, I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has been watching my videos, who have subscribed, who has been leaving me comments and likes and showing support. I truly, truly appreciate it. You know, I just started doing these videos not that long ago, relatively speaking, and I've seen that a lot of people have been really, really enjoying it. I've seen the same people leaving comments, and it's really, really encouraging. So thank you so, so much. There's more coming in 2026. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, maybe the notification bell, and, you know, make sure that you don't miss out on future videos because there are more coming. So go do that. You can do that right now. Maybe hit the hype button. I don't know. Are they still doing that? I don't even know. But there's definitely more videos coming. So again, thank you guys so, so much for all the support. And if this is your first time watching one of my videos and you enjoyed this one, you might want to check out the playlist on screen somewhere for my Dragon Ball dub comparison series. I think you're going to enjoy those videos as well. So once again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.